Oh, hey there. It looks like you caught me playing 2004 hit game Red Dead Revolver on my PlayStation. What's that? You've never heard of it. Okay, 1 second. Oh, hey there. Looks like you caught me playing the 2010 hit game Red Dead Redemption 1. Okay, you haven't played that one. Or, sure, why not? 1 second. Oh, hey. Looks like you've caught me playing the 2018 Game of the Year snub, Red Dead Redemption 2. What now? Arthur's bigger than you remember. You sound crazy right now. Oh, look at that. I've been a Red Dead fan for about as long as I can remember, so about 2 years ago when I built a computer that could run it. Must have gotten hit in the head or something while I was building the computer, who knows, not me. Red Dead, just as a franchise, is such a love letter to the Western genre in general, I feel. And with the release of Red Dead 2 in 2018, I feel as though it became very accessible to a large range of people, particularly young people. With Westerns being less popular than they were in the days of spaghetti Westerns and Clint Eastwood, I feel that a lot of particularly younger folks' introduction into the Western genre was and will continue to be through Red Dead 2. And you know what? That makes me happy. The Western genre is so important to Americana because it's bound up in these stories that actually happened in our history. Almost folklore, if you will. Wyatt Earp's vendetta ride from Arizona to California, Billy the Kid's career in crime and its finale in New Mexico. Heck, even going up north with stories of folks like Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane. I feel like the Black Hills are especially underappreciated by American culture, especially considering like how rich of a history they have. Whether it's the tragedy of the displacement of the natives or the history of the resettlement and redevelopment there. I myself have been up there a couple times now. It's a beautiful place, and honestly, it's one of my favorite places to go to and study the history of. Like I said before, Red Dead 2 is such a gateway for young people into the stories of the American West that I wish there was something similar that could bridge back modern culture to the stories of the Black Hills and bring the Black Hills out of the obscurity of South Dakota as a whole and Christy Nobe and into the limelight. Like, instead of Red Dead Redemption, call it Black Dead. No, don't call it that. Like, instead of Red Dead Redemption, I wish there was something like Black Hills Redemption is, and I hate to admit this, a gaming con. I know. It's a Red Dead Redemption convention. All of the cast for Red Dead 2 will be there for signings and photography and such. Panels even. I should say everyone except for Charles's voice actor. He's probably busy being in every other game ever made. And I'm really excited for that because the cast seems like a group of some of the nicest people you could ever meet. Roger Clark goes kind of crazy from time to time, but that's part of his charm. And this Red Dead Con has actually happened before. It was called Tombstone Redemption in 2023. And instead of taking place in the Black Hills, it took place in Tombstone, Arizona, which is where the shootout at the OK Corral took place. I wonder if that was a reference. But this time, it's taking place in the town of Deadwood. It's a place known for Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane and, of course, Potato Creek Johnny. Yes, that's a real man with that name. I actually have a video about him linked in my description, so you should watch that. And it just so happens that I've been to Deadwood before because it just so happens that my sister lives not 40 minutes away from it. And it just so happens that she bought a house last month, and it just so happens that it needs electrical work done, and it just so happens that I'm an electrician. So they need me up there anyway. I talked my two boys, Clayton and Avan, into buying tickets, about $70 a piece. We arranged to use the best mileage car that we had access to, and we were all set to leave. And then Clayton's family closed on a house, so he has to move the day that we're gonna be going. So, still have Avan. It's basically like how the gang got rattled on that boat in Blackwater, except instead of Dutch pulling the trigger at a young girl on a boat, resulting in Davy's death, Clayton's family pulled a trigger on a house, and Clayton died. But I know I've been yapping too long without showing you anything, so I'll tell you more about Black Hills Redemption while we're on the road. Alright, this is the beginning of the trip segment. This is where I'm going to detail the entire experience there and back. It's going to take a while, let me tell you. I have 17 pages to read through in the script here. I mean, I did make the font pretty big, but still. Then I'll break down what I thought of the event, so, you know, buckle in or saddle up or whatever you have because you're coming with me. I'm dragging you with a rope. Sorry about all the hats, by the way. I recently came into a lot of hats. Oh, yeah. 1 second, I'll pick one. I got off work around 3:30 on Friday, and I was pretty excited to get the show on the road. We had hoped to make the trip straight through, like without sleeping, so we had time to see a couple sights before the event. But Avan convinced me to make a stop in Omaha for a motel, so that's what we decided to do. So I booked it on Priceline, and we headed that way. You might notice the hat I'm wearing, not this one, but the one in the footage. No, I'm not one of those people who wears cowboy hats in public, although part of me is very jealous of those people. It probably wouldn't surprise you to learn that this event encouraged people to cosplay. Yuck, right? Cosplayers, ew. Make my skin crawl. I hate those guys. I'd never do that. This one doesn't count. There was actually a prize offered for best costume / performance with said costume, and Clayton and I had planned to dress as Arthur and Micah for the competition. Here's us in the half-baked versions of our costume at a disc golf tournament. Turns out it was a costume contest after all. We won $80 worth of discs for dressing like that. No one else came dressed up, so we kind of won by default, but I still count it. Because he couldn't come and Avan just came dressed in a poncho, which was a blanket he cut a hole in, we decided not to compete. I did, however, already spend money on the costume, so I'm wearing it. Sue me. I had to pick out something that I wanted to have signed. Avan had chosen the vinyl from, like, the original soundtrack. He doesn't have a record player, but pop off, I guess. I had to come up with something of my own, so I chose a disc of my own. A disc golf disc, actually. So this here is what I'm going to be paying the cast to sign. I'm not sure which cast members I'm going to have sign it yet, but it's just like it's a disc golf disc, and I got it for super cheap and decided to do a little bit of art on it, and I thought it would be kind of cool to have Roger Clark's signature like on the skyline or something at least. I considered filming the whole thing and just uploading it, but I didn't think people would watch a 32-hour video round trip. You can say what you want about the Midwest, but as soon as you cross the Mississippi on the Missouri side, you know, it starts to look like something else. Also, the water towers start getting really small. It's a good thing that the scenery was interesting though, because it distracted from the constant road work. Road work ahead? Yeah, I sure hope it does. Also, we saw Blackwater. When are we gonna go back for the money? Just putting that out there. I actually wish we had stopped there because it turns out that was the town that Blackwater from the game got its inspiration from. By the time that the sun had gone down, we had gotten to a stretch of Missouri that pretty much has nothing. We were even having trouble finding gas stations. Avan has a discounted Circle K, so we were trying to find one of those. It took us off the highway for like a 15-minute drive, and I think we didn't go to the right one. As you could tell from the clip, it was starting to get pretty rainy and dark, so it was a good thing that we were coming up on Omaha. We'd been driving for a while, and I was really just ready to get in a nice bed and have a nice stay. So they didn't let us into the hotel. Yeah. We're not old enough. We walked in to get our room, and the guy behind the counter, who was so far behind the counter, he was like boxed in so well that you could barely hear him through the glass. He asked for my ID and then looked at it for like 3 minutes. And then he handed it back and just said, "Not 21. His no explanation. I had to figure it out from there. And this dude was not willing to contemplate a refund. That's not a law in Omaha, Nebraska, by the way. You don't have to be 21 to rent a motel room. It was just a store policy, which was not reflected online. It was basically like when Arthur buys that book from the Get Rich Fast guy, and then when he brings it back, the guy won't give him a refund. Except in my situation, I couldn't chase him through the streets and hog tie him for my refund. Instead of whipping out a cattleman, I just have to say, never stay at the Travel Inn in Omaha, Nebraska, because they don't mind ripping you off. Also, they have bed bugs, sticky floors, and oh, what's that? Blood on the sheets. Yummy. That's right, Travel Inn. I didn't even want to stay there. Idiots. That said, we were getting very tired. You're in the shoulder. And we just needed a place to stop. It really came down to where is a safe place to sleep in the car? And there's really only one answer. So in the parking lot of the Restaurant of the Free, we settled down for the night. So we're at Cracker Barrel now to sleep because we know we can sleep here. Yeah. It's a dream of mine to go to all of these. place where I can go. We woke up the next morning feeling so well rested that we didn't even stop to eat at the Cracker Barrel. That's just the type of good night's rest you can get in the passenger seat of a Hyundai Ioniq. I honestly didn't even need a bed after driving for 7 hours. Coming up out of Nebraska, you really only have a couple interesting places to stop at, one of which being Sioux City, which looked pretty cool. But after that, that's where South Dakota starts, and that's where the drive starts to get very painful. You notice I did talk about the Black Hills, but I didn't really talk that much about the rest of South Dakota. That's because South Dakota is otherwise an anomalous blob of nothing. From the point that we entered South Dakota, it takes a total of 8 hours to reach our destination. Now that's not too long, you know, I've driven worse, it's just there's nothing on the way there. The rolling hills are cool for a bit, but they just keep rolling. The only thing to keep you engaged is just the constant wall drug signs along the road. I legitimately don't know how they got the money to get these signs out as far as they did, but there are so many wall drug signs along Highway 90. To make matters worse, the sky started getting pretty cloudy, and then a lot cloudier, and then rainy, and then downpouring. And that meant we couldn't stop in the Badlands like we planned. I mean, we could, but that would suck. So I guess we'll stop at Wall Drug, alright? I guess the signs worked, okay? I'm just an American boy. Man. Advertising gets me as good as the next guy, alright? I'm just trying to make it in this sick world of ours, and also the road. Wall drug is describable only as a tourist trap. Emphasis on trap. Not like when somebody puts a carpet over a hole for people to run over, but when you put one of those sticky things on the ceiling for flies to land on and get stuck on. There's mainly just a bunch of cheesy Western wear, and I know I'm one to talk. And then it's got a bunch of restaurants too. Some odd exhibits here and there. Of course, some things were more interesting than others. Then we decided to get back on the road again. I don't know what Avan was doing here. I can't explain that one. We started back toward the Black Hills, and let me tell you, the visuals are night and day. We decided to stop in Custer for a round of disc golf. That's a reference to earlier in the video, right there. And I won, by the way. Take that, Avan. No way. We also stopped by Mount Rushmore, and let me just say, beautiful view. My favorite part was that we could see all 4 presidents clearly.
No way. It's beautiful.
So after all 15 hours of driving, we finally made it to my sister's house. I didn't get any footage of us arriving, so you'll just have to believe me on that one. Actually, no, I did get one picture of a bottle of kombucha that my sister gave me, so we'll throw that one up there. And with that, our journey on Thursday had come to an end. All right, now wake up. We're talking about the thing that you clicked on the video for. I showed you the costume that I had before, but now it's like actually well rounded out and a fully made ensemble. See, look at me, posing like an idiot. The shirt I just had beforehand, but the pants I got for $60 on Amazon from Scully Men's Rangewear, I think. The button-on suspenders were $13 on Amazon. The half chaps are actually not the ones I ordered. The ones I bought were about $30, and the chaps that they sent me are Ariat chaps. I mean, they sent the $30 ones too, but Ariat ones go for about $100 though. Boots are also Ariat, but I've had those forever. The hat was actually from Etsy. It's right up here. I put a different band on it for the event, but I just put some black stain on it. So I'm going to like a Red Dead Redemption event this summer, and I wanted to get a hat, right? Because I don't have a cowboy hat, and I thought it would be kind of cool to get an Arthur Morgan hat. So I ordered this on Etsy by this guy, and this is exactly what I got. It was a really nice hat, especially for 30 bucks. I've been charged a lot more for a lot less. I guess charged is the wrong word, because I would not have spent that amount. But the problem is, like, it's not Arthur hat colored. Like, his hat is this color. You know, it's almost black. And I've never done anything with leather. I messaged a friend who works with leather, and she just pointed me to a stain. So, first crack at it. I need you to see this. Is that not just Arthur's hat? This broomstick should say, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Look at this thing. Like, I'm not skilled or talented in this. It was just unexpectedly easy, but just look at it. Look at it. It's very difficult to get your hands on like an actual Arthur Morgan hat that's shaped exactly right in the right color. I really was left to my own devices here. I used like twine to make the rope. I think leather would have been better, but it's what I had. Pulling into Deadwood, we were met with what would take up the majority of our time at this event, and that was lines. There were like 3,500 people there. I was right behind the best uncle cosplay I've seen in my life. Now, that's not a high bar because I've never seen an uncle cosplay in my life, but this is the best one. Also, I met this guy who was dressed as Herbert Moon, also the best Herbert Moon I've ever seen.
This whole thing is nothing but a Jewish plot. You do know that, don't you?
I find that highly unlikely, amigo.
This guy's got me feeling like a normie loser, man. I literally chose the least deep cut of a character possible. I'm dressed as the guy on the cover of the 7th best-selling game of all time. I talked with Uncle in line for a while, and he said
I got lumbago.
he was in Tombstone the year prior, and that it was already a much different experience than Deadwood. Deadwood is a very much tourist town. They have lots of gambling, like slots. Just slots, actually. None of the fun gambling. They have gift shops full of some of the worst clothing items you can imagine. Really creative stuff, to put it gently. I eventually figured out that this was the line to register, though, so that's good to know. There weren't really directions to any of this, so you sort of had to have like a cattle mindset. After about an hour's wait to register, I guess not register, like sign in, we got in line to get signatures. We saw a lot of very cool cosplay, and we didn't stick around for the contest, so in case you're wondering, this is the cosplay that won. If I can find a picture of it, it's a Molly O'Shea. We decided to skip out of line because the panel was starting at 2. I didn't tell you guys about the panel. There's a panel. We bought the tickets, which I think were $40 each, but they didn't put a limit on the amount of tickets sold. So it was still like first come, first serve. Avan and I decided to get there at 12:30. I don't know why we were in such a rush because we were some of the very first people there. The Homestake Opera was about a 12-minute drive from Deadwood. Not really walkable in an event like this. It was in Lead, which was a town right over from Deadwood. Also, it's the tapestry that I have behind me. I would say that they should find a better place for this, but they kind of had to use this. It was the Homestake Opera House, which has a lot of historical significance, and it's also just really cool. And it's the only real theater in the area, so that also makes it difficult. When we walked in, we were greeted by this friendly woman who asked if we had anything we needed before the show. We said no, but we appreciated the hospitality, and she was like, okay, well, you can just go ahead and go backstage and let me know if there's anything you need. I did have to backtrack at that point and be like, no, we're not the cast members. We're just the stupid nerd fans of the cast members. Would have been pretty funny though to just go back there and pretend like we were part of the cast when everyone got there. The guy who played Albert Mason from the photography missions was there, so like they did have side characters there. Dude, how funny would it have been if I just pretended to be like some side character that just that nobody remembered. Hey everyone, it's good to see you. Who are you supposed to be back here? Roger. Very funny, man. I'm sorry? It's me, Trace. Remember I played Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld. Seinfelds. You really don't remember me? I did that thing with Arthur that one time?
You know, I think I do remember him. He was, he did the one thing with Arthur that one time, right?
Who are you? That's Avan. You don't remember Avan? He played Dutch, remember? I would never do that though. The cast members are way too nice for Red Dead. I'll have to save that bit for the next time I watch a panel with James Corden. Being so early, she just sent us forward to our seats, so we got to sit in the front row. There was one other person there. We weren't the earliest. There was some nice girl there who I can't remember the name of. But shout out that one girl, because she was nice. The theater was super cool. It had survived a fire in 1984, and it was still like charred and dilapidated in the actual theater room. That sounds bad, but it was super cool and atmospheric. No one checked to see if you had purchased tickets for the panel. You had to scan the tickets in at the beginning of the day, but you weren't given like a badge or a lanyard to say that you had paid for it. It was just sort of like on the honor system, which I'm just now getting was a reference to the game, of course. Finally, the room filled up and the cast members all kind of filtered in. So I was gonna compile like my favorite clips from the panel and paste it all here, but I realized I don't really want to step on any toes because like if it was a bigger company, I would worry about it, but it was just a small group of people putting this panel together, and I really don't want to kind of pirate it for my own profit. So I'm just gonna link it to another YouTube video of the entire panel, so you can watch that if you want, so check the description below. I don't know if they're allowed to do it, but at least I'm not the one breaking the rules. I will post one clip of it that has something to do particularly with me, but I won't be posting the whole thing or even a compiled version of it. I even asked my own, in my opinion, very well thought out question. I feel like Red Dead has a lot of very original characters, whether that be from Revolver or Red Dead or Red Dead 2. Are there any particular performances that any of you drew from to craft your character altogether?
Great question.
I was kind of wanting an answer more from like Roger or Rob or even the other Rob, but I think that this was the funniest possible answer, so I'm happy with it. Sean's actor also said that he based Sean on his uncles, just guys.
I have a bunch of uncles in Ireland who are all lunatics and crazy.
And I can absolutely see that. Also, the guy who filmed the question, very grateful to him for filming me, but he didn't let go of my phone for like 15 seconds after the question was over, so I just kind of had to stand there over him like, I can take my phone. Once the panel was over, everyone started filtering off the stage. Herbert Moon was on the first row with us, and Roger Clark stopped and goes, "You're Herbert Moon." And the Herbert Moon guy was all like, "Yes, sir, I am." And Roger goes, "You're f***ing racist." And that was funny to me. Before we left, it was announced that Penny O'Brien, who is Molly O'Shea's voice actor, was going to do a little folk concert at the same theater that evening. And I've never heard like an Irish artist who I didn't like. I don't know if that's a trope. Maybe I'm just like entertained by the Irish accent, so I don't notice if their singing's bad. Who knows? That said, after the panel, we packed up and headed back to Deadwood. There was still a pretty sizable line for sightings, even though we were one of the first people out of the building. I think some people just stayed in line even though there was no one there to sign their stuff. The panel was done around 3, so that's when we got back to the signings, and over the course of the next 3 hours, we moved in the line from here to here. The whole time, the cast members would occasionally step out and have a little interaction with the fans up by the front, but a lot of times, that was the exact same group of people because the line was moving so slowly. If you didn't like people, you were just playing Standing Simulator. Let's put a pin in that for later, because that was absolutely an issue for the event, but we'll cover that in a different segment. We sort of made friends with a couple people in line, and that was nice because then we got to like step out to grab food or go hit the head or something, and our friends would hold the line for us. When it was nearing 5, one of the employees came out and was like, "Hey, if you want to go see Penny O'Brien's concert, you're probably going to have to step out of the line and head back to lead." At this point though, Avan and I had sort of succumbed to the sunk cost fallacy of our line, so we had no intention of going to that concert. As the guy next to me in line said, "I had no idea Shawty could sing." Not the words I would use, but you know. So after waiting several hours, a staff member came out and told us that Roger Clark would be leaving the signing at 6 o'clock. You know in those old cartoons when like a character would run away and they'd run away so fast that like their hat and maybe socks would be left behind? That was Avan and I. We were leaving that line. Feeling pretty frustrated, we decided to head back up to Lead to watch Penny O'Brien's concert. We got there a good 30 minutes late, but lucky for us, she still hadn't started, so you know, we're good. Like I said before, I like Irish singing and I like folk music, but let me just say, even if I didn't like that, this was really good. I asked her on Instagram if I could use a song of hers in my video to kind of showcase her, and she asked if I used this one specifically. It's called Old Ways. You probably can't hear it super well over all my yapping, but I very much recommend searching for Old Ways by Greta on Spotify. That's her stage name. She really had a lot of feelings going on in that theater for sure. Not me, obviously, because I'm a big, strong man who's cool and wearing a cowboy hat. Not Avan either. For the same reasons minus the cowboy hat. She was also playing with a feller who went by Early Evil. He played some originals, they were pretty cool too. I'm honestly gonna have trouble now playing Red Dead 2 with Molly O'Shea's scenes and not hearing Greta's songs instead. And that's fine, honestly. Penny O'Brien went from being a cast member I didn't really know anything about to being one of my favorites. She was pretty cool. We sort of had a meet and greet in the lobby afterwards. I met Harriet Preble while I was there, got a picture with her. You may know her as the Kiwi TikToker who posted thirst videos about Dutch and Benjamin Byron Davis.
Google, show me this guy's balls, please.
Or you might remember how Benjamin Byron Davis saw the videos and responded to them. I asked her if she was going to get his signature after all that went down, and she said no, but she was going to conduct an interview of all the cast members the next day. I said, oh, and she said, yeah. Those interviews are on her YouTube channel, by the way. I'll link them below. It was really good. Avan and I bought some shirts from Greta, and Avan had his vinyl signed by her, along with asking her to pick her favorite song and write it as like the final song in the track, which was pretty clever. I think that adds the song to the vinyl if my musical science knowledge serves me right. With that though, we headed back to Sturgis for the evening. And that was Friday. So far, Avan and I had mainly just stood in line. We didn't know if there was much to do besides the very particular events like the panel, but we wouldn't have been at them anyway because we were standing in line instead. We had paid $70, $75 just for the chance to get these signatures, and there was not a snowball's chance in the hottest pits of hell that we were going to risk missing that. The panel was fun, and the Ogretta concert was something I would be very sad to miss, and something I would pay money to see again. But those events made up maybe a quarter of the time that we had spent at the event so far. The other 3/4 were spent standing. And you know what? I'm old. It may not show it on my birth certificate, but look at my face. I'm nigh on expired. So with sore back and knees, I hit the sack, and then I went to bed. Oh yeah! By the way, if you're thinking, his mustache looks a lot darker than it did in the footage, that's my bad. Nobody told me that I wasn't supposed to drink bleach, and I'm kind of a messy drinker if I don't have a straw. When we woke up on Saturday, we definitely had a different level of vigor than we did the day before. Maybe a little bit less excitement about it. We decided not to get dressed up nearly as much as last time, and just hoped we could get in line before the crowd did. We got there about 8 a.m., even though the signings were supposed to start, I think, at 12. That's when the staff had told us to come back the day before. We made friends with people in line. Once again, I do that when I'm bored. And it was even worse now because I forgot to charge my phone overnight, and I needed to save battery to get footage, so I'd mainly had to talk to people. I'm sure that was a little annoying to Avan, but he's got to be used to being annoyed by me now, if not just actively part of being annoyed by me. After all, we made the exact joke every time we saw a road work ahead sign.
And road work? What?
With these new friends, we were able to slip out of line and go grab a bite to eat with them holding our spots. It had to be from a casino. By the way, if you want to go anywhere in this town or do anything in this town, you have to go into a casino to do it. That was fine for me because nobody looks at this face and thinks he's underage, but Avan is a different story. Fortunately, we were able to find a casino that had a separate restaurant so we could he could go in. The walk was a lot longer than expected, and by the time we got back, the folks that we were standing with had just reached the door. We were finally so close to getting our stuff signed, finally. And that's when I started noticing the lanyards that everyone was wearing. They all said VIP on them. Ours did not say VIP. Ours just said Black Hills Redemption. Also, looking at the back of this, I have to redact a previous statement. We did get a panel lanyard. My statement does still stand, though, that nobody checked us for these. But yeah, ours did not say VIP. We just paid our $75 entry. Our lanyards were for the poors, the proletarians. We had stolen our way into a queue in which we did not belong. We were thieves. In a line we don't want to stumble. I had no idea what to do. I was mainly upset with myself because we were absolutely the ones in the wrong here. At least at first we were. The signings, it turned out, were VIP only from 10 to 12. I just believed that random staffer who probably only thought he was talking to VIP people anyway, because apparently, and this is a new development that happened as I was standing there, the VIP people were supposed to be at the front of the line, because 2 hours later, even though the VIP signing segment had technically ended, a staff member came through and had all the VIP people push past the proletarian swine who had not paid for a VIP pass, and he had all the non-VIP guys move to the back. That's a long line. Well, all the non-VIP people except for me, Avan, and a few other unfortunately fortunate souls. Fortunately unfortunate? They lucked out, but they still were in a sucky situation is what I'm trying to say. Because they had the fortunate misfortune of getting there crazy early and being at the very front of the line when that announcement was made to move everyone back. So this group of people who were waiting there at least 4 hours at this point were just told to wait by the front entrance and then catch the end of the VIP train in front of everyone who wasn't VIP. And that's very nice. I'm glad that they let us do that. But it seemed like that wasn't going to matter at all because it was VIP as far as the eye could see. But now, the next thing I'm going to tell you is very important. These signings were taking place in Saloon 10. Now, this is a reconstruction of the original Saloon 10, which was down the road and had burnt down in years prior. This Saloon 10 has two front entrances. One entrance leads you to the bar area, where another one leads you up a flight of stairs to the old brothel room and another restaurant area. The historic brothel room was was where the signings were taking place. So that door was the door used to go to the meet and greet. Now this is when the door attendant turned and looked at our ragtag little posse of unfortunates. Now this person, I won't describe them or use any specific pronouns describing them because I don't know if they would get in trouble for this. I doubt they would, but this person, I'll just say, looked at us, took 4 people from our group and squeezed them in the line. Then they looked at us, me and Avan, and said, "Are you minors?" I said no, Avan said yes, and they said, "One of you is good enough." They stepped a little closer and said, "Here's what I want you to do. Head into the bar. Go to the very back corner. You'll see an elevator. Take it to the 2nd floor. From there, you'll see exit signs. Follow them in reverse and slip into the brothel from the side." And that is exactly what we did. We were finally there, dude. I had brought only so much money, and I really only wanted signatures from the big 3. It was very tempting to get signatures from everyone in the room, but that would have cost several $100s. Everyone in there was super nice though. Michael Mellenfee, who is Sean, was the first guy we saw. He gave us each a handful of candy to keep you boys from feeling peckish, and I felt really bad not buying anything from him. He was also just a really chill dude in every scenario I saw him in. Michael Mellenfee, if you're watching this, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, I didn't buy anything from you personally, but I did let somebody borrow money from me to get a signature from you, and I forgot to collect. So technically, in a very roundabout way, I did buy something from you. And if I ever go back to one of these, I promise to get a signature from you myself because you're sick. I got to talk with a few other cast members too. I talked with Pearson's voice actor, Jim Santingelli. He was a lot of fun. Also felt bad not getting some from him. John Hickok, who played Agent Milton, was super cool. Fun fact, he's related to Wild Bill Hickok. We eventually made our way to Benjamin Byron Davis. I was planning on getting his signature, but Avan was in front of me, so he was getting his first. And I'm so glad he was, because this was my favorite interaction all week. Avan had brought his vinyl and he handed it to Ben. Ben asked his name and struggled with it for a bit and then asked if Avan's parents hated him. And then he wrote "Dear Avan" on the vinyl or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what he said. Then he looks up at Avan after writing that, and Avan goes, "Can you sign it?" And Ben goes, "Yes, I'm gonna sign it." But is there a quote that you would like me to put on it before I sign it? And Avan said, "Like what?" And Ben says, "That's your prerogative." And Avan said, and remember, he'd done this trick before on Penny O'Brien, where he goes, "I don't know, just pick your favorite." It worked a little differently on Ben though, because Ben just goes, "F you, man." And that just made me laugh. That was really, really funny. Ben's agent was standing next to him just cracking up the whole time. My interaction with him was a little different. Ben thought the fact that I had a disc golf disc to sign was really funny. Everyone was confused by that. I didn't think it was that odd. We had a little discussion about what in the world disc golf was, and then I had him write, "You can't fight gravity" on it. Moving over to Roger, he was super nice. He didn't even tell Avan to get He actually recognized what my disc was, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I have one of those near my house." I'm not going to try to do an impression of Roger Clark. I can do Arthur, but not Roger Clark. We talked about it for a bit, and then I had him write, "You can't change what's done." And he took this sick selfie with me. Here's my artist rendition of it where I added Avan. This one is the original though, of course. The best part though was when we started to walk away, he called out after us and asked if we wanted to see something cool. We said yes, obviously. If Arthur Morgan wants to show me something, I sit down and listen, because he might shoot me. He then beckoned us over to the open window, leaned out of it, and yelled, as loud as possible. And there was a line below, so everyone below just cheered. It was really funny. So he was right, that was cool. Avan went off to get Alex McKenna's signature without me, and I went to get Rob Weedoff's signature. He was just super nice. He wasn't near an open window and didn't have anything he could have yelled anyway. Well, he could have went, "You eat babies!" But again, no window. He was also really confused about what I had him signing, and he was like, "Are you gonna throw this?" And I was like, "No, not after you sign it." But then we talked for a little bit about how cool the Black Hills were, and then I had him write, "Ain't nothing fair." And we got a picture, of course. All of the things that they wrote on it were little jokes for me about disc golf and putting, but I do realize that I was asking them to write very bleak things on this colorful little disc. But that's okay. They're kind of bleak games with bleak messages, so it's fine. Now, I don't remember the exact pricing for each. I believe I paid Ben $30 for his signature, Roger $50 for his signature and photos, and I think $40 to Rob for a signature and photo. Now, after getting all of these signatures, we headed back down to the street. And then, now what? We were so worried about getting up there, we didn't stop to think about what we would do afterward. What was there to do, really? There was a poker tournament, which, you know, was probably done already, and you had to be 21 to enter anyway. There was a sharpshooting contest, but that wasn't ongoing, and I'm positive Avan wouldn't have been allowed to enter. For all intents and purposes, Black Hills Redemption was kind of just over for us. We dropped all our stuff off in the Ionic and then headed back down into town to get some ice cream.
I'm happy again.
With that, we decided it was best to just leave for the day. We went up to the cemetery in Deadwood where we visited the grave of a national hero. We saw the sights for a bit and then we just headed back to my sister's house. I stopped to grab some electrical supplies, and then the rest of the evening was spent redoing the outlets in Emily's house. Oh, and watching South Park with my brother-in-law. South Park is okay.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
Alright. Gotta love originality, man. That was Saturday. One more day. We didn't worry so much about getting up there early this time around. We didn't have a line to catch. I just went ahead and wore my Arthur cosplay, but I didn't even plan on sticking around for the costume contest. Like I said, we didn't do it. I guess I just wanted to wear it. You know, I bought it, so. We mainly focused on just talking to people. We actually made our way around to the event organizer, who's named Kenny. Super nice dude, poured his heart and soul into this event. And I'm afraid we may have monopolized his time a little bit. He loved to talk about the event, we loved to hear about the event, so there were a couple people waiting behind us to ask him questions, but that's okay. They can wait their turn. Now, he had replied to a comment of mine on a post a few months back, telling me that there would be some kind of Potato Creek Johnny themed thing at Black Hills Redemption. If you subscribe to me, you know how much I love Potato Creek Johnny. I have a video on it, I'll link it below. He told me that originally there was the plan to make a replica of Potato Creek Johnny's gold nugget and give it away as a poker prize, but he said it wasn't really feasible when he looked at the price of gold, so he just didn't do it. That's fine, though. That's fine. The line was still crazy long when we got there, though. There were definitely more open spaces of sidewalk, but it was mostly still jam-packed with people trying to get into the meet and greet, and somebody got too handsy with a mannequin. We went down to the ice cream shop again.
I'm happy again, I guess.
Now, I'm gonna send it over to Avan to explain that joke. Avan, over to you.
I like ice cream.
Thanks, Avan. While we were sitting there, Robert Bogue, who voiced Red Harlow, walked over to get ice cream. He said hi to us, shook our hands, said he liked my costume. I heard a lot of really nice things about my costume over the weekend, and I felt really good. I actually wanted to get his signature too, but he wasn't at the booth when I went to get the signing, so I missed him. We also stopped in the Deadwood Soda Saloon, where we hung out for a bit with the shop owner there, whose name I forget, otherwise I would give him a shout out, but go to the Deadwood Soda Saloon. He makes sodas himself using natural sweeteners like honey. Very, very good. If you go to Deadwood, go to the Deadwood Soda Saloon. They're in the back of Miss Kitty's Mercantile, which happens to be where I found the book of postcards with Potato Creek Johnny in it the first time. Linked below. There were also two folks sitting at the bar with us from Alton, which is pretty close to my hometown, so that was cool. Really, the only reason we came back on Sunday, though, was for the Red Dead history lecture. This was actually super interesting. There was a news story a while back, if some of you remember, where a history teacher was using Red Dead Redemption as not really a curriculum, but a source material to work from. And you may be thinking, hey, Red Dead Redemption didn't happen, so how are you doing a history class on it? And you'd be right to think that, but it is based on some historical premises. Specifically about the Pinkertons and how they went on a rampage against the outlaws in the years prior to Red Dead Redemption. Anyhow, the teacher who did that, his name is Tori Olson, he was there giving this presentation on that little nugget of history. At the end, he advertised his book, which is Red Dead's History, A Video Game and Obsession, and America's Violent Past. That just came out on August 8th, and if you want to listen to it, Roger Clark narrates it in Arthur Morgan's voice, so that's pretty cool. Oh, and when we were leaving, we saw this outside.
It's P-Bottle Avan.
And that was the end of Black Hills Redemption, but that wasn't the end of the trip, oh no. There was still another 15 hours to ride back. Most of it was uninteresting, listening to the Gus and Eddie podcast, rest its soul. But we also stopped in one particular place that you just have to. One of the prettiest places that I've ever seen in my life. The Badlands of South Dakota.
I'll buy you a whiskey, light up your smoke. But if you ask my name, just cowpoke. From Cheyenne to Douglas, the ranges I know, and I'll drift with the wind. No one cares where I go. It's a hot arid summer, it's beautiful space, and the sun beats down to hard my face. I've yet to see water upon this dry ground, so if tears wet my face, I fear that I'll drown. A cold front may one day blow in on false breeze and drive the snakes homeward for winter release. But still something's rattling somewhere inside, and it sounds like it's broken in a place I can't find. And it only gets louder with time.
It's beautiful.
I might cry.
I am crying, actually.
Some evening in springtime, a filly I'll find, and I'll regret all summer I left her behind. But my skin won't take Brandon, my heart's long since broke, and I'm bound to the wind as it drifts from cowpoke.
So, what did I think? There's a lot going on here and a lot of understanding that has to be extended toward this event because it is a very young event. Lots of planning that people just don't realize has to go into things like this. Not a lot of staff, so just bear that in mind while I pop my corn. I wanted to make a nuanced list of pros, cons, and suggestions, but as I was writing this, I realized that's not feasible. When I discussed this with Avan, we were just kind of like getting everything that we could, and we realized events like these, the pros are what they advertised. If they give you what you came there for, what they said they'd have, the pros are all right there. It has its pros. So I don't want it to come across as though there aren't pros. I really don't want to seem like I'm being negative toward the planning in this, or especially toward Kenny, because he poured his heart and soul into this and put a lot of time in it to make a really good event with some very cool memories at the end of the day. That said, let's tackle cons and suggestions first. Alright, cons. Let's address the elephant in the room. The very long, several block span elephant, which is the lines. It was obscene. I heard the staff complaining about it. Kenny talked about it with Avan and I. It was a pretty massive ordeal. What Kenny told us is that he didn't want the line to be crawling as slow as it was, but it was really more of an issue of the cast. Unfortunately, he was right. Only the people who were up in the brothel room, being the cast, could make the line go any faster than it already was. Even more unfortunately, he was also right in that it wouldn't really be good to try and change that, because that would mean cutting those interactions short with the fans. Maybe it's annoying to wait in line for several dog years, but once you get up there and get to have like a genuine and friendly conversation with these people who had kind of put together this beautiful and lasting experience for you, which was Red Dead. Once you're up there, you're like, oh yeah, this is what I paid $75 for. The wait, even if it was shorter, wouldn't have felt as rewarded if it was more of an assembly line of, okay, signature photo next. It wouldn't be the same. But that was really the gist of the fix that I had heard from staff to fix the problem. I don't think that should be done. I'd rather wait in line forever. I think that they would be better served with something a little more complex. Now, this might be a stupid idea. Avan and I just kind of workshopped this together. I think it would be better to have a few different lines. Different locations for signing divided up by popularity of the cast members. Group the most popular ones together so the people like me and Avan who only want those really popular sightings and only have the money to get those really popular signings can get those all at once. Then take the ones with less numbers from years past and put them together. Now that wouldn't work at every event, but Red Dead is absolutely the event where each character has their own dedicated fan base, where there's like people who identify solely with that specific character and they're gonna get that person's signature. I stood in line with a Sean McGuire fanatic who literally was only in line to get Michael Mellenfie's signature. There are dedicated Molly fans, there are dedicated Lenny fans, there are dedicated Micah fans. In Harriet Preble's interview, Peter Blomquist talks about how many people walked up to him just to tell him that they found Micah hot. So, my point is, no matter how you slice it, you're gonna have people who are better served with multiple lines. The biggest downside is there would be a little bit of a disadvantage to those who wanted every single signature. Frankly, though, they're still going to be waiting through the exact same amount of people, except both those lines are going to be diminishing faster. Having less lines will filter the meet and greet room faster, and frankly, it's just going to be less congested in general. That's my 2 cents on that, anyhow. The next con is obviously the VIP system. You have to clarify in writing how that works. I know Kenny live streamed a lot, so I think a lot of context is missing for me specifically, but that does not qualify as proper advertising. If you want special privileges to be given to a certain group of paying customers, then I feel like you need to advertise that as such. I had no idea you could skip forward in lines as a VIP member, and maybe that's just me, but most of the VIP people didn't seem to know that either until they were told. The way I understood it, I just thought they would have dedicated VIP signing times, and frankly, that seems better. Again, maybe I missed it, but that would mean most people missed it too. So just advertise better, that's all I'm saying. It would honestly make the sale of VIP tickets go up, because I know I would have bought one if I'd known that would have helped me get in line so much quicker and get my signature so much quicker. I probably would have had it early Saturday. Even then, I think it was just difficult on the staff to make VIP happen in general. Just, I think, don't do that. Don't have VIP. Or if you do, have the VIP be that little gift package. There was a gift package where you got like a shirt and a couple other things, and that was cool. I considered getting it just for that. But speaking of the potential to get signings done on the first day, that brings up the question, what would I have done, after that? That brings us to the next con. There wasn't enough to do. The event was very honestly just standing in line and listening to people talk, and I liked those things in their own particular way, but it would have been nice to have a little more, and that's fine. Again, it was advertised as such, so I can't expect any more, but it could have been more. It could have been laid out like a Renaissance fair, obviously not its largest scale, that takes a lot of planning. I don't know if it was doable, but it would have been really cool to have like vendors set up on the street and actually close those streets off. It's not a thoroughfare anyway, like you can go through Deadwood without that street that we were on. Okay, editing this, I realize I said that way too confidently. There's a horse-drawn carriage right there, which is a business, and there's a bus that shuttles people, which is also a business. There's a good chance that wasn't feasible because you'd be shutting down businesses for however many days you'd be there. I don't think they could do that, but for future reference, if you can get a place where you can close a street, because that does happen. Also, they did collaborate with some of the, places on the street, like Deadwood Soda Saloon had a John Marston drink. They had a little bit of prep for it, but if they were able to do more of that, even if those businesses brought out like their stuff to a booth in the street. Lots of city festivals do that all the time. That could have been really cool. More participatory events would have been nice. The poker event sounded really cool, and frankly, just having more tables set up for Western-y games I think would have cut it. Doesn't even have to be a tournament, you know, just poker, blackjack, horseshoes would be super sick. Look at me and tell me I don't look like I'd play horseshoes. But just stuff to keep folks engaged. At the end of Penny O'Brien's concert, they had a couple folks come up on the stage and sing Cruel World with her. That was super cool. I got to have a brief conversation with her afterwards, and we were talking about how it would be super sick to have like some kind of Red Dead karaoke thing. Just at some point during the week, just have it as an event. That could be so much fun. Every Red Dead fan knows the songs, you know? I want to do the one where it's like, one night when I was frisky, over some potent whiskey. I know Kenny was limited a little bit by the location of the event as well. It's difficult to work with a town like Deadwood, it really is. Difficult to work with towns in general. But Deadwood, half the businesses are casinos and another 30% of them are tourist trap gift shops with like Trump shirts and Marilyn Monroe with Confederate flag shirts. It's a tourist town already, so it was a big event, kind of stepping on the toes of other tourists who are in that town. Apparently, Tombstone, which was the event last year, didn't have that issue because it's not a tourist town. It kind of made for more of a dedicated experience and a lot more open of experience. And apparently, the locals were kind of thrilled that people were coming and visiting them for their history because they knew their history, but they didn't really have a lot of tourists in to see it. But not faulting anyone for the choice of Deadwood, because frankly, Deadwood had to be one of the events at some point. It just has too rich of a history. It's like, it's a must, you know? Maybe it would have been better to wait until the event has a little more feet under it to kind of do its own thing, but you had to. He had to. I'd like to suggest, though, that for future events, at least at some point, one should be held in Blackwater, Missouri, because I looked into that. It's very cool. Or, and probably more feasibly, St. Charles, Missouri. It's a very historic town, and they actually have the infrastructure to support something big like this. I don't know about Blackwater. I didn't get to look into it that far. But both are laid out like historic old towns. And again, Blackwater is what Blackwater was based on, so that's cool. Also, you know, they're both way closer to me, so, you know, that's a pro for everyone. So speaking of pros, that was the cons section. Now let's talk about the pros. I just said Deadwood wasn't the ideal spot, but the buildings were. It's just a very pretty town with some very historic buildings. Saloon 10 was super cool for the meet and greet. The Homestake Theater was a perfect place for the panel. It was awesome. Like I said, listing the pros for this event would just be saying what happened. So instead of doing that, I'm going to talk about what really made this event. Like I said, most of the time was spent standing in line with Avan, waiting on a signing or just waiting to get in the first place. That would have been a lot less fun if it weren't for the people there. Maybe it's just me, but I didn't meet a single person there who wasn't a super friendly certified yapper. People of all ages, all walks of life, all places across the US, even outside of the US, were just coming together to like celebrate this franchise. A franchise that they like so much that they were willing to travel hundreds, sometimes even thousands of miles to go to an event for and get signings from the cast and just interact with people who like it the same amount that they do. And that's really sick. And what's even more sick is that extended to the cast as well. Everyone just seemed thrilled to be part of it all. That's in the panel, at the Ogretta concert, just out in the street in general. Just a really nice sample size of some super nice people on both ends of the aisle. That sounds political. I mean like both sides of the fan base, either the cast or the fans of the cast. That's what really made this event. And frankly, I think that's only going to get better as time goes on, as the event evolves and grows, and as Redemption as an event gets its own legs and really starts to build a fan base of its own. Anyway, that's all I got for this video. I know it's probably going to be longer than most of the ones I've uploaded, but oh well. If you like this video, I do a lot of video essays like this, not quite as long. So if you feel like it, hit that subscribe button, hit the like. You know what all the buttons do, you know? Hit them all. Not that one! Gosh, dude, I worked really hard on this. Oh, and check out the links in the description. All right, now, if you'll excuse me, I have to practice my John Marston jump, so I'll catch y'all later.
Well, let me have a rule and a saw and a board and I'll cut it. I'll climb up a ladder with a hammer and a nail and I'll nail it. Well, we worked so hard to build a little house together. In the snow or the rain or the ice cold wind when
I didn't know when to include this, so I'm just putting it at the very end. But Rob Weedoff liked my post about Red Dead Redemption, so I think we're friends now, right? That means we're friends?